Hello everyone and welcome to Chat with Nene Alice. If this is your first time tuning in to Chat with Nene Alice, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to send in your comments. Viewers, I'm so delighted today to let you know that we are in the 16 days of activism. The 16 days of activism has started on the 25th of November and it's going to end on the 10th of December. The 25th of November is the International Day for the Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women, and it's going through to the 10th of December, which is the International Human Rights Day. And every year, activists, women activists, feminists, gender activists, you name them, they come around, to commemorate the 16 days of activism. And during 16 days of activism, people around the world, you hear their voice, raising awareness, united together to raise awareness about the ending of all forms of violence against women. They also challenge discriminatory attitudes, and they call for improved laws and services to end violence against women. And we are also very happy in Sierra Leone as a women's movement that we have seen, the final discussion or the final debate of the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Bill in Parliament. So this year, particularly, in as much as we are celebrating a lot of things as women, the international campaign is talking about how we end femicide, which is also referred to as a gender-related killing of women and girls. And we have been hearing about people adopting women and girls. We have heard about women and girls being kidnapped. And not only that, they are not only kidnapped or being adopted, but they are, they are killed. They are tortured and killed. So why do we celebrate 16 days of activism, and what's the history behind it? So many people have been asking me about that, and I think I want to use this opportunity to talk about it. So we've heard about the Mirabel sisters, who were political activists. These were women who were living in Dominican Republic in the 1960s. And they were so vibrant, and they were so vibrant about dictatorship in the Dominican Republic. They had a leader that was called Trujillo, who was a dictator. And because these women were speaking about some of the things that he was doing as a dictator, these women were killed by his secret services. They were tortured before they were killed, and then they were thrown off the cliff by the secret service. And since that day, we started talking about, ending all forms of violence against women. In fact, that day ignited all the conversation around the feminist movement. So in June 1991, the Center for Women's Global Leadership, alongside participants who were part of the Women's Global Institute, decided, to declare that day as these days that we are celebrating as 16 days of activism. But that notwithstanding, this day was also recognized. The November 25 was also recognized by the United Nations in 1999, and the women in Latin America recognized that day also in 1980. So you can see all the struggle we had from 1960 to 1980, when the women in Latin America decided to observe that day, to 1999, when the United Nations adopted it. And then we came back, during the Women's Global Institute, and we had a conversation. And since that day, we had the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So the 16 days of activism, like I have just said, begins with November 25 and ends on December 10th. So why does this matter? Why do we talk about this, as feminists, or as women's rights activists, or as gender activists? Because we know, even though we have been talking about this and there is, political commitment and recognition, yet we still, hear of alarming scale, almost in every country around the world, of how women are still suffering from all forms of violence. And most of the time, these behaviors are seen as normal. You know, the global culture of discrimination against women allows violence to occur with impunity. You know, sometimes when some people met out violence against women, they do it with impunity. They even do it with a lot of audacity. And, you know, so that is why most of the movements, particularly the Me Too movement, we've heard about it, not so? And the Time's Up movement, you know, they have been able to bring this kind of conversation to the fore. And even here in Sierra Leone, we have heard about the Black Tuesday movement, you know, that, you know, talks about the death of Khadija, you know, and all of that. And this is to bring to the fore that in as much as we have a day on the elimination of all forms of violence against women, yet still women are still suffering from violence. So we need to speak out against human rights abuses, particularly as it relates to women. Organizations are doing their best. Right through the year, we've been talking about this, about how we end violence against women, you know, and all of that, how we, every day we lobby for the improvement of, you know, of laws. We go to communities, we engage women, we engage community stakeholders, and we talk. We you know, we have lots of talking being done with them so that they are able to put bylaws, they are able to, you know, just stop everything that has to do with violence against women. And to some extent, you know, in as much as we see progress, but yet still there are still some more going on, particularly issues around rape, issues around wife beating, issues around emotional violence, issues around domestic violence. You know, it's still ongoing. And we have so many other things to talk about when we talk about domestic violence, particularly issues around unpaid care work, for example, how women, even within their household, you know, are doing a lot of things that subjects them, you know, to violence. So we need to speak up and we need to talk about this. So whilst we, you know, we continue to commemorate these days, and I think I have not told you that we are also going to celebrate International Human Rights Defenders Day. These are women who have survived violence, women who went through violence and have survived violence. And there is a special day for them during the 16 days that we will be celebrating. We are also going to celebrate World Disability Day. And we know how women, particularly disabled women, if you look at the intersections of all the violence related, how women with disability, how they suffer violence as compared to men with disability. So that's why we're talking about the 16 days of activism. We also have World AIDS Day on the 1st of December, which we all know how stigma have affected women and how violence against women, particularly domestic violence, have seen so many women, you know, catching or testing positive for HIV. And this day is going to, you know, to be climaxed by International Human Rights Day, which is December 10. And that's where we're going to we'll bring the curtains down. But that doesn't mean when we bring the curtains down that we have, you know, conclude anything that has to do with violence against women. The struggle continues. We will continue to lift our voice. We'll continue to lobby for progressive laws. We'll continue to, you know, to ensure that the system works for women and women are able to sing that victory song to say that, you know, we were able, you know, to make our voices be heard. We want to say, I want to say, let's commemorate and let's celebrate our women human rights defenders. And for me particularly, in solidarity with all women who have survived, I stand in solidarity with all women who have survived all forms of violence. So viewers, I wish you a happy 16 days of activism, and I will be bringing you along, you know, as the days go by, so that you know what's going on and what we are doing at a particular time. So thanks for listening to me. If this is your first time tuning in to Chat with Nene Alice, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to send in your comments. Enjoy.